Welcome to today's episode of the AI Trailblazer podcast. Today we have a very special guest. He is none other than Adam, the co-founder at Yipy. So for those of you who are just joining the podcast today, we are Convert Inbox and we specialize in installing AI systems that help B2B software businesses grow their business and revenue. So if you own a B2B software company and you're interested in a free growth consultation, just drop us the word growth in the DMs below. So without further ado, Adam, it's great to have you here today. Let's start off with yourself. What's your background and what led you to start DP?
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. First of all, thanks for having me on. This is really a great opportunity and great treat for me. So thank you. Going right into the question of what led me to start Yippee and why am I here? It's interesting. The real short story is I never intended to be. My background was in hospitality, and my goal was to just be a hotel operator, right? Be a good general manager, be a good hotelier. I ended up stepping away from the operation to start a consultancy to better help the hospitality world perform. And then along that journey was noticing, hey, there's a problem here. And not just a problem saying, oh, something's not working. There was a systemic problem. There was something that I noticed with every client that I took on. Hey, there's a missing tool here or a missing functionality. And every time I went to go look to find a solution that solved that problem, it just didn't exist. And so, luckily, my best friend was a software engineer, and I would go to him with I think a million software ideas over our friendship. And finally, when I was telling him about this particular issue, he said, "Hey, I think that there's something there that we can do." And so we had built a few little things, and then that led to more things, and then that led to, hey, I think there's actually a company in this more than just a tool. And that was kind of the journey that led us into Yippy, which was saying, gosh, how do we solve a problem that we know exists, and how do we make our industry better? How do we improve it? And so far it's been a wonderful journey, and we're really enjoying the path that Yippy's taken us on.
Nice. That is a wonderful journey. Thank you for sharing that with the audience. It always starts with, solving your own problems and then
Yes.
coming up with a company based on that.
No, we,
Interesting for
we've
sure.
we've always talked about at Yippy, we have two main philosophies. Is one, we want to be a solution to a problem, not a solution looking for a problem. And that's been a huge piece for us of just saying, look, we know that everything that we build at Yippy, everything that we focus on in Yippy, is focused on building or is solving a problem that we know exists, and we know where the problem is rooted. And there's a lot of tech companies that I've found that they invent something or they find something, and then they have to turn around and say, okay, what problem does this solve? And we've noticed that that approach is a little bit more difficult in that to continue the development of the product or the need of it, because not understanding the root of the issue that you're solving can you know can kind of take away from your path of development, right? Of like your product roadmap of like, what do we actually need to go? But when you know that, gosh, what's the problem I'm solving, and you deeply understand that problem, that helps influence your roadmap, right? And then that influences this philosophy of product driven design, where or domain driven design, excuse me, where we know that, gosh, I'm solving this problem by what the customers need and my clients need, and that is just influencing the problem or the solution, right? So you deeply understand the problem, you deeply understand the
Yeah.
market, you deeply understand the clients, and with that, it allows you to really develop a very, very rich um, product roadmap and hopefully product as well.
Okay, that's great to hear. So, could you share more specifics? Like, what kind of problem are you solving for what audience? I know it has to do with,
Yeah.
standard compliance, but maybe you could give a more easily understandable example just for our audience here.
Yeah, of course. So we're specifically focused right now at Yippy in the hospitality space. And something that's really unique about this hospitality space is there are a lot of things that we call standards. in the industry, and to kind of level that out and qualify what that means. At Yippy, we call anything that has an expectation attached to it a standard. So many standards come in the form of service standards or expectations, right? If you've ever been to a hotel or a restaurant, that makes sure that the servers or the hotelier smiles at you, uses your name, gives you the right keys to the right room. Those are all great service standards. There's also health standards, such as making sure that your establishment is clean and orderly. Brands, if you are a franchise property, right, they are going to tell you, hey, you have to do operational standards, do things in a certain way, or staging and branding standards need to follow a certain thing. So it's very exciting that there's a lot of standards in our industry that are spread far and wide throughout the entire hospitality industry. The problem is that there's not a singular way in which those standards are communicated broadly across the industry. And so when you're looking at mega brands like Marriott or Hilton or Jinjiang hotels, anything like this, you're typically finding organizations that are distributing their standards via PDFs, email updates, or they're simply using some type of SharePoint, right? Hey, go to this intranet and there is a library of PDFs that is stored there, digital PDFs. And that is a really fragmented process, because what ends up happening is the hotelier on their side, or the restaurateur, not only is receiving these updates or these standards from a parent company or a brand, but they're also receiving them from 5 or 6 other sources as well. And so if you are a hotelier, or if you're somebody running an operation, there's two main challenges. First, what are my standards? Really understanding what those are. And second, you get so many that keeping them straight and in order is very difficult. So that's what Yippy does in a nutshell. We are solving the problem of, first and foremost, we make it easy to distribute standards on a global platform. So any organization around the world can publish their standards through Yippy, which is a cloud-based standards management system. And so they can say, here are my standards, and they can easily organize them and share the standards that are relevant to the properties that need them, right? So they can say, they can organize it based on brand or by region, or by local requirements. And then properties on the other side can then subscribe to multiple standards as published. So they can have their brand standards, their health standards, their Forbes, or their American Express, whatever that may be. They can put those standards in, and then they can have one single house where all their standards exist. And Yippy then has a very robust feature that you can self audit and get data on your performance of how are we actually doing, to know where do I grow, where do I need to give praise because we have high performance, and all that data is shared appropriately, so everyone has the information they need in order to drive growth. So, a little bit in a nutshell, lot going on, but
Yeah,
hopefully that
that
made
was
sense.
yeah, I think that was more insightful. Like it's not just a typical standard management company, but you also have the audit function as well, and centralize everything. So now let's talk a bit about your role within the company, Adam. What does your day to day look like? What are your responsibilities, and then how does it fit into the bigger picture at EP?
Yeah. As a founding CEO, I am always surprised at how many hats I have to wear, right? All the different, what am I doing in a day? And so it's hard to say what my day to day looks like, because it changes so much. But I'll maybe give an insight of what my day yesterday looked like. And
Yeah.
so yesterday we're actually excited, and we're attending an upcoming trade show in Indianapolis. And so there's a lot to do to get ready for that. And so I was reviewing our marketing material and making sure that all of the the prints and everything are in scope for that. At the same time, we have two new product releases that are coming out. And so I spent probably about 2.5 hours working with my co-founder and CTO around, okay, how does this feature need to work, QAing that feature, working through making sure that everything is functioning properly. And then we had another hour, maybe 2 hour session after that where we had features that we were working on, where still a little bit more nebulous, where we had to ideate and say, okay, how does this work? What are the things? What problems will this actually solve? How will this be used naturally by our clients? And that was a really wonderful session. It was so insightful, and one of the best things that we get to do at Yipy is design and define new functionality in the software, which is just really great because it's so fun to say, okay, what is this really going to do? And then I had about 6 or 7 clients that had some requests that I needed to follow up with, and I needed to check in on and make sure everything was going well. And that was really wonderful to be able to, uh, be with my guest services or my client services team and make sure that we're answering all the questions and making sure that all of the requests were being met and we were able to help those. And then after that, I had to do a little bit of accounting and settle some of the books and make sure that we were all taken care of, cash some checks, and update our accounting. And so when I look back at the day, it was like, oh my gosh, I think that every part of this company that I was, that we're running, there was a piece of me in it, right? And so, our day to day really focuses on really three things, which is one, are we getting out there, right? Are we moving our company forward? Are we helping increase the awareness of our product, the understanding of the problem, and really trying to reach our clients? So two, then the second part is continuing to develop our product and making sure, okay, what's going on here? How's development? Making sure that we're either defining new features or enhancing existing product. And then the last part is being involved with our customers, right? Making sure that we're that they're happy, right? We don't just sell to people and get them hooked, so to speak, but we've got to make sure that they're significantly happy and making sure that everything that we've sold them is working and functioning properly. So it's a great hat to wear, even though it has many of them. Um, but a day to day is really great. It keeps us very busy.
Yeah, I'm sure as a founder, that's one of the pros and also like the challenges as well of juggling many different things. So you mentioned something that caught my interest. You said you wanted to, of course, move the company forward. What would the goal for EP look like for the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah. So what's really been fun is that as we have launched Yippee, there has been saying, okay, here's how we think this thing is used, and here's how we want to develop it. And then we get clients, right? And then, or any company, you get clients and they start asking for things, or they start using the product in a way that maybe you didn't think of originally. And I call that when they Frankenstein it, but they go and they start doing things with your product. You go, huh, I never thought you could do that for there. And so we have just had three major feature releases that really enhance our enterprise use of our software. And so the next 6 months of Yippy really is two things. One is deeper, more deeply infusing the AI component into the product so that um, our chatbots work better, our informative information is much more readily available, and then the generative stuff also becomes much more to the forefront of what we're trying to accomplish here at Yippy. And so we have to balance this push toward our AI adoption in conjunction with understanding the principal uses of Yippy, and as well as the adopted uses of Yippy, and saying, okay, how do we now realign some of those requirements, right? Because when we built our roadmap, it was solely influenced off of expected use or expected design. But now that we've been open for and doing business for several years, we've been able to notice, okay, here's how this product is being used. And so the next 6 months, actually, it's kind of great timing, is a reconciliation of roadmap with current use, right? Or adopted use cases. So it's been really fun to go back and redesign that roadmap to meet those needs. And so as we're scaling tremendously with Yipy out of a tool that was primarily used for independent, individual, and small management companies, hotels, and then small management companies and small brands, to now having been adopted by mega brands, which I can't say the names quite yet, but we'll be able to shortly. But be able to meet the demands of these very, very large enterprise hospitality organizations, which is really great, right? And so it's just shifting that focus and functionality a little bit over the next few months.
Hmm. So could you share more about how would that like look like in terms of a revenue growth? Is it like a 2x or 3x?
Oh, it's like 200 to 300x, which is really great. As we go into this next phase, right? We have been building now for a few months with a client, and what's fun about this is this next step that we're making in the next 3 months moves Yippy from being primarily in the United States and Canada and Mexico is where we've currently been operating, to putting us immediately in 96 countries with 1,500 hotels operating. And that's one client, right? And then the other, same thing, moving us into 16, 1,700 hotels globally. And so what's really great about the SaaS model and technology versus singular products is you're able to scale very, very quickly. You're able to scale very efficiently as well into
Yeah,
the global market, and it's easier to move into um, international markets than if you were just selling a standard product where you needed to ship or manufacture. So that's what's really fun about software.
yeah. Sounds like you guys are on a very ambitious journey so far, trying to redesign the product roadmap to meet more of your existing client demands as well. So let's say if like on this journey you face some challenges and then you had like a magic wand to fix one thing in the business right now that is either holding you back or slowing down your progress to get to what you mentioned about your goals earlier, what would that one thing be?
Man, I ask this question all the time to people, and it's fun to get it on myself. Like, if I could wave my magic wand and fix, one thing. And that's so tough. It's such a great question because there's a lot of things that we'd love to just fix on a roadmap. But I'll tell you the one that is really plaguing us right now that I would love to fix, which is when you think about standards and you think about requirements and expectations, the very nature of these are very specific, right? In the way that they're communicated, the way that you define them to your organization. And words have a very, very strong meaning, right? When you say, how to make a bed, the words that you use can tremendously affect the way that that outcome is there. So if I were to say that something is folded versus something is creased, right? They mean two very different things. And so if I could fix one thing in the magic wand, it would be the language versioning of standards. One of the challenges that we run into is many standards are shared globally and internationally. And as you share standards, the problem is that it's typically shared in English, and not everyone speaks English, and so, or at least in the mega brand world, right? And so then there's a translation of the standard, And sometimes those translations, if you're simply relying on an AI translation or on some type of tool like that, it doesn't carry the same uh, understanding of the standard, and so the wording maybe might be different, which ends up causing confusion or things. And so it's been a very challenging task for us, is to how do I take these standards and easily share them across multiple languages without um, making some one person go through each word and review it, right? So that's been one of the things that we're working on really hard, of like, how do we
Okay.
make that process simpler and easier for our clients? So it's a big lift.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. So you touched quite a bit on the product already, as well as, like you said earlier, the language versioning challenge for this product roadmap. So I wanted to circle back on one of the other goals that you mentioned as well, which was to put yourself out there more, have more awareness. And I think
Yes.
one of the ways that you are doing that right now is through trade shows, right? So I just wanted to see what is your goal and challenges faced in this area as well.
You know, so just like you're saying, so we're going to high tech here next week, and it's a great trade show located in Indianapolis. It goes in new location every year. We go to the hospitality show, the independent hotel show, and there's a lot of shows in hospitality and trade shows. And I love trade shows so much, actually, because I love showing up there and seeing these huge convention centers filled with businesses that are focused and dedicated to solving the problems of our industry, right? Like, it is truly an arena where you go into and you say, look at the dedication to making this industry better. And I think that's wonderful. One of the challenges that exist in there is it's very difficult to be seen. There's a lot of people, and there's a lot of noise, and luckily at a lot of the shows that we go to there, we try to focus on technology specific shows. But sometimes, like if we're at the hospitality show, for example, we're in the same crowd as someone that's selling bed linens, and the other side is selling chocolates, and then here we are selling software. And so it's a few things of, one, are we finding the right people that are looking to solve this problem, and two, are we getting in front of the right people? And luckily, mostly the trade shows are buyers, people that have that ability. But there is this challenge of making sure, how do I address a very deep problem that has some nuance to it in a very short amount of time, right? When, as people are walking by our booth, or as we are trying to get this attention of someone that has a very short attention span, how do we effectively, get the hook and be able to explain the problem that Yipy solves? Because once people get the time, and we get time with them to resonate, the problem and the solution, it's a no-brainer. They go, oh my gosh, we're struggling with this. Of course, I have this problem, and it's a very easy. But in order to get people, what we call, to have their Yippee moment, where they realize, that's what this company does, that it is a bit of a challenge. It's hard.
Right. So is that the main channel that EP relies on right now, like the trade shows, or do you guys also use digital marketing channels, online
Yeah,
channels,
no,
and then how have the results compared?
yeah, like, great question, because trade shows, they're really effective. They really pack a punch, but they're not how there's a huge change in market, in how people buy things and consume product information. And I think that right now our main focus has been trade shows, but the answer is, the real answer is, we've got to be better. And I think that this is true for everyone, of a stronger marketing approach outside of a trade show is so needed, because when you have a strong marketing or digital footprint outside of that, then organizations recognize you at trade shows, right? And now we're not stuck with the problem that we have now, which is, hey, I need to educate you while you're standing here in front of me. With a stronger digital marketing and stronger media presence, where people are naturally discovering Yipy on a digital scale. Then when they see us in person, it's like, hang on, wait, I've been hearing about you. Who are you? Or I think I understand the problem that you're solving. And they've had the ability to digest that. And then they show up, and then we're able to have more meaningful conversations. And so as we have grown in Yipy, that is our number one focus. Number one, period. And I probably should have brought that up when we were talking about where are we growing in the next 6 months. Our number one focus is our digital marketing and scaling, because
Okay.
that's where it is, right? That's how we need to grow, is digitally, and making sure we can find as many people as we can, and talk to the world about this problem.
100%. So important to put yourself out there online as well because you can reach so much more people at
Yes,
like a fraction of the cost and time. So
huge.
what would you say are the steps that you're taking right now to grow your digital marketing presence?
Yeah, I think the first step is carving a budget for it, of saying, hey, this is needed, it's required, and a budget in two terms. One, there's a budget in time, of saying I need to make sure that I personally am allocating time to this, but also allocating time from my team, that we need to create and understand content for that. And then the second, of course, is a budget of finances, um, because we're not equipped. I'm not equipped to really run a full marketing campaign of the product. And what's really great is that I think there's a lot of co-founders or founders of software that bring to the table unique skills, right, or natural skills that they have. And marketing is, I wish, was a stronger one of mine. I wish that I was better at understanding that. I love, obviously, coming up with great things about our product, but um, for us, it's been saying, okay, we need to talk about our product naturally and share more about it on channels that we know are effective, but also being able to work with someone that's professional that can help us get that messaging out there in a way that was great. So we worked with a really great company called Gain, and they helped get us, going. And it really was more of like incubator style, of like, okay, this is how you get going. And that was one of the first things that we learned, is just how do we set this up for ourselves. And now we're scaling outside of, okay, we're beyond the point where we can do it ourselves, and now we need, you know, professional assistance in growing outside of that. So that's what we're looking for.
Interesting. So let's say if you manage to get somebody on board to help you out in this area, how would you measure success? Like what are the key metrics that you want to track to ensure that it's aligned with your goals?
Yeah, great thing. So I think like the first one is website. Um, coming to our website. Do we have increased traffic there? Of are people coming to us, discovering what we do, and all of those types of things. The next thing is, does it? Are we starting to get understanding from our clients, right? Or our sales perspectives of, are they talking to people that recognize us? And right now, a cold outreach from our sales team is truly cold, right? They're like, Yippee, I've never even heard of this. What is this? So, and that's something that we track is, when we reach out to someone, do they know us? Have they heard of us before? And so we'd love to watch that metric increase, of people saying, when we ask the question, have you heard of Yippy before? Have you heard of what we do? For them to start saying, yes, we have, or I've seen you on LinkedIn, or I've seen you in this capacity. I saw your ad in this, right? Be able to grow that. And then, of course, that should have a direct effect and impact on our sales. So we should be able to see that impact our
Yeah,
sales. So
absolutely.
that's
So
really what we're hoping to find.
okay, that's insightful. Sort of like looking into how it impacts the website traffic all the way to the sales touch point as well. So we are going into the last segment of the podcast here. What kind of shifts are you seeing in your industry right now? Like in terms of trends, and then how
Boy,
is that impacting the business or the growth of EP?
hospitality is a really old industry. We're talking thousands of years, right? And not much has changed when you think about people need a place to sleep, and they go to a place that has place to sleep, and it should be clean, it should be fresh. Sometimes they have food, sometimes they have activities, and that core of this business has been going on for as long as humanity existed, right? There's old hotel ruins in ancient Greece that is really cool to look at, right? Which is just fun. But the hospitality industry is going through a technological revolution right now, which is amazing to see. And I do unfortunately credit COVID for the growth that we're seeing because our industry went through something in 2020 that it had never experienced, which was the majority of that industry shut down. And there were a lot of new immediate requirements or standards that were put into place that were not optional. They were requirements, right? And watching organizations try to move through that, and they had to, make quick adaptations and things, I think greatly informed a lot of the technologies that are available in this sector. And so what's really great, some of the great trends that we're seeing is a shift away from legacy products that haven't evolved, that haven't adopted in, decades. And the industry is going through, okay, how do we digitize this process, or how do we modernize the process that we're doing? And so we're seeing some really great trends on um, how does AI now, how is it not an enemy? How does it help us in hospitality? Because for a very long time, technology and hospitality were at odds with each other. They were, if you adopt technology, you lose the human touch. And I
Yeah,
think that what we're learning is that the proper adoption of technology increases our ability to deliver on the human touch, right? Where it frees us away from some of the tasks that are keeping leaders and managers in their offices and holed away, and and front desk agents and line level staff doing more menial tasks rather than focusing on guest experiences and connection and human work that only humans can do, which is emotional connection. And so I think we're seeing right now this revolution happen in this industry where this technological revolution has just been really wonderful to be a part of, and to watch it.
yeah, I like that way of thinking about it, sort of using technology to free up the low level stuff so that the humans can actually focus on
Yes.
delivering a quality service.
And that's what we're here for, right? Like the whole point of hospitality, whether you're going to a restaurant or a spa or even in retail, right? The point here is to feel something and to have the right experiences. And sometimes people want to go to places and they don't want to talk to anyone, and they just kind of want to disappear and be alone. And great technology is going to help that happen. Other times people really want to feel the effect of the people that are helping them, and they want to connect on a deeper level, and technology is going to help us do that as well, because we're going to allow ourselves to actually have the time to connect with people on a very personal, deep level. And I see that that's really the purpose of technology, is allowing us to better connect with each other. Hopefully it doesn't drive us further apart, but brings us closer together.
That was a great way to end the episode today. So that is about it for the podcast. Once again, Adam, thank you for agreeing to come on this podcast and sharing all of these valuable insights, as well as the technological revolution happening in the hospitality industry right now. Thank you for your time, and a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Bruce. Pleasure is mine. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Yeah, welcome.